Hello again, Treksters! This block contains a bunch of episodes that at face value aren't much to talk about. But that's just it. They're all great episodes to watch all the way through, with few issues. This is Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. I'm your host, Dustin Wing. Starting off at number 315, Misguided Favors, or Sleeping Dogs. This episode became the measuring stick for this list when determining where stuff around this point belongs. I'd ask myself, is this better or worse than Sleeping Dogs? It's an episode that's perfectly average and doesn't have anything wrong with it. That's saying a lot for Enterprise's first season. We open to Hoshi finally looking like she's growing as a Starfleet officer doing phase pistol training. While checking out a gas giant, they find a Klingon ship sinking into the atmosphere and attempt to help the passed out crew. They take one ungrateful Klingon back to Enterprise to try and figure out what's going on, while T'Pol, Hoshi, and Reed try to get the ship out of the atmosphere. It's a pretty good problem-solving episode that gives Hoshi some good growth and addresses the angst between her and T'Pol after detonating all the Klingons' torpedoes to ride the shockwave out, and Phlox coming up with a cure for the crew. They make pointless threats at Archer, and the crew go on their merry way. One of the best early episodes of Enterprise. Being set up at 314, Debts Unrepaid, or Judgment. Coming off the last entry, you'd think maybe the Klingon Empire owed Jonathan Archer a favor or two. That is being repaid in bringing him into a trial mimicking the one from the Undiscovered Country. At least he has not Martok as his lawyer, but Archer's words of justice only end up getting both of them sentenced to Rurapente in the end, and he's pretty nonchalantly broken out by the crew of Enterprise. It's a pretty straightforward plot we've seen a few times in the franchise, including the feeling of Q's courtroom for humanity. Pretty much every episode of Trek in a courtroom is a good one. Scott Bakula once said this is his favorite episode of the series. Questioning the nature of reality at 313, Not O'Brien Must Suffer. Or Whispers. This episode starts almost at the end and is told from the perspective of O'Brien dictating a log about how everyone on DS9 literally turned against him. It all started after he came back from setting up security procedures and first contact protocols with a Gamma Quadrant race. When back on DS9, everyone treats him with a very suspicious nature, and he even suspects Keiko of trying to poison him. We get to see a senior staff logs montage as he tries to put together what's going on. He gets to play a game of cat and mouse while stealing a runabout, which brings us full circle. The big reveal when he goes back to the world he'd visited in the Gamma Quadrant is finding Sisko and others already there, and as it turns out, a rebellious faction created this O'Brien as a clone to try and kill the leader of the planet during first contact. There's a touching moment at the end when Not O'Brien dies and tells the real O'Brien to take care of Keiko. It's always fun watching Miles use his engineering skills to get through situations. Dealing with past life indiscretions at 312. Statute of Limitations. Or Dax. A race known as the Klystrons tries to extradite Jadzia without going through the proper channels and are thwarted. This brings up an extradition hearing where Dax is tight-lipped about Curzon's alibi of having an affair with the wife of the man he was accused of murdering, while the general was killed decades before. Odo has to go and dig up the evidence himself and clears Jadzia's name. It's a very interesting ethical dilemma about when the statute of limitations runs out for a crime committed by a joined Trill. Helping the natives at 311. Those in need. Or Civilization. In a fun romp for the Enterprise crew, T'Pol detects modern technology signatures on a pre-warp world, and a small team goes to investigate. Archer gets a Kirk-style love interest of the week in an apothecary investigating recent outbreaks of illness in the city. Turns out it's an alien using an antique shop as a front for underground mining. They put the antique dealer out of business, and Johnny leaves this woman wanting more. It's a bit of early exploration of the concept of a prime directive, and a great use of what feels like a classic TOS plotline. If only more of Season 1 had been like this. Number 310 is covering its tracks in The Spy Among Us, or We open in this one by carrying over the tradition of being interrupted at the very end of a semi-sexual joke. As an away team gathers provisions, a mushroom-gathering Seska is seemingly attacked by the Kazon and Chakotay saves her. After leaving the planet, they encounter a disabled Kazon ship with what looks like Federation tech. The rest of the run is Seska running games of misdirection about where her loyalties lie, ultimately being revealed as a Cardassian spy that joined the Maquis, and on her way to join the Kazon instead of stay on Voyager's 70-year mission. This sets her up to be Voyager's recurring villain for the next season and a half. Another case of a decent first season episode in a Trek show's run. Getting lost in a pocket of time at 309, Mutual Respect, or Gravity. This one is a personal favorite of mine, but is quite dull in parts. Of all people, Tuvok gets a love story. On a shuttle mission with Tom Paris, they get pulled into a mini-universe with a solar system where they find other survivors fighting for resources. At first meeting, Nas mugs Paris for supplies until saved by Tuvok from other raiders in this universe, where months go by in a matter of days back in the Prime universe. To further press home the point of getting them out quickly, Voyager is fighting another civilization trying to close the anomaly because of the amount of ships they've lost to it, with seemingly no way to get people out. Voyager comes up with some technobabble via their now sacrificed multispatial probe. During the months spent just trying to survive, Nas develops feelings for Tuvok, and through this we learn that Tuvok had to undergo training with a Vulcan master to suppress his emotions, specifically love. Joseph Ruskin as the Vulcan Master was an excellent casting job, and a fine use of the talented actor. When back on Voyager, Tuvok mind melds with Nas to help convey the feelings he has, but is incapable of putting into words. This moment of understanding is a beautiful shining moment in Trek, even if the plot is a little slow. Losing all hands at 308, Forbidden Knowledge, or Contagion. This is some of the best the first 2 seasons of TNG has to offer, and the first appearance of a personal favorite recurring Trek actress of mine, Carolyn Seymour. We see the first indications that the Galaxy-class luxury cruise liners aren't all they're cracked up to be, as the Enterprise goes to try and help its sister ship, the Yamato, with failing systems hanging right on the edge of the Romulan neutral zone. After the ship literally destroys itself with all hands lost, it turns out not to be a design flaw this time, but an alien virus picked up while trying to find the homeworld of the lost galactic civilization, the Iconians. Picard plays a dangerous game entering the neutral zone to try and piece together what happened, and ends up in a standoff with a Romulan bird of prey as he and Data uncover the secret of this long-dead conqueror planet. In the end, they destroy this Iconian gateway and wipe their systems of the virus, while also saving the Romulan ship from self-destruction. This is the first of many times we see the pinnacle of Starfleet, the Galaxy-class design, as not all it's cracked up to be. And upon a deep dive, it really was an ill-conceived design, at the height of Starfleet's hubris after 3/4 of a century of easy expansion and only a few minor conflicts. Changing your perception of reality at 307? Genocide over brunch. Or Journey's End. Picard is asked by the hard-ass Nechayev to repeat history and force resettlement of former indigenous American peoples from their planet that is now in Cardassian space. Wesley Crusher returns in his final appearance in TNG as an unsatisfied 5th-year Academy cadet. His entire arc from Encounter at Farpoint on only has his path being that of a Starfleet officer, but it's only after he's gone through more than most that he resigns, for now, to go learn about the nature of the cosmos with the Traveler, as he realizes his ability to see math and the possibilities of reality as the same thing. Though he'd reappear in Nemesis in uniform with rank, we now know that his long-term future was to be one of the many groups depicted in Trek that protect the timeline. Picard gets Gulliver to see reason and seek a compromise with the people of this planet, which we'll see later isn't honored and the Maquis would spring up out of necessity. I've seen this on others' worst lists, but with a message like, "Don't let history repeat itself," I feel it deserves to be here.
Oh, computer.
That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Major, Major. Thanks, Major. Major, Major.
Course laid in.
Thanks, Major.
1 warp signature found.
Major.
Shields at 71%.
Thanks, Major.
At current speed, 7 minutes 4 seconds.
Thanks, Major.
Ensign Seska.
Thanks, Major.
A Kazon vessel 14 kilometers off the port bow.
Major.
No further entries conforming to search parameters.
Thanks, Major.